Hi everybody out in the void, I'm Zach, this is the Shaken Fist, and as promised, here I am with a cartoon, today we're talking about dice rolls. Dice rolls are cool, right? We all like dice rolls. Dice rolls are fun, you could play craps, not on the pooper, not on the pooper, not on the shitter, maybe a little bit of the D&Ds, but hey, we'll talk about dice rolls for a bit, and, maybe I'm finally sponsored by someone. And by sponsored, I mean, I quite like them and I thought I'd advertise something for them. So, hey, here's some advertisements for the Ark Encounter protest. You should go, because I can't. So you should definitely go, and loads of people should go. And then you should all, pick up the Ark and then carry it into the sea. And then see if it's seaworthy. And if it's not seaworthy, God didn't exist.
Some people say that human existence is a result of a roll of the cosmic dice.
Right. Yeah, they do. And those people would be theists. Because they depend on this sort of reasoning to try and make you believe in God. When you actually speak to anyone that knows what the fuck they're talking about, at even the slightest, they say, actually, there's a series of natural events that led to the formation of certain compounds that led to those compounds getting more complex to eventually lead to cells and organelles in the cells and blah, 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 blah. It's not random. These are all cause and effect things. Certain pressures and certain effects happen, and those pressures and effects and stuff happen and create things. You see? It's almost like physics is a set of rules about interactions. It's not random. It's just easier to convince people of stuff if you put it across that way.
Government wants to control information and control language because that's the way you control thought. Same with religion. Religion is nothing but mind control. So they're going to tell you some things you shouldn't say because they're sins. And besides telling you things you shouldn't say, religion's going to suggest to you some things you ought to be saying, because we do think in language. And so the quality of our thoughts and ideas can only be as good as the quality of our language.
Like the gambler who stakes his life savings on the next throw, we just got lucky in the lottery of life. Some people say there's no purpose in the universe, no grand plan, no God behind it all. Our numbers just came up and here we are.
No, the only bit of luck involved is that we ended up on this planet. Life is a physical chemical process made of physical reactions, and since it's a chemical process made of physical reactions, if it's happened here, it's happened in other places. It isn't just luck and a roll of the dice about whether life was going to exist or not. Oh, it's just, you have no meaning in life. Yeah, there is no meaning in the universe. Because the universe is an uncaring, unthinking thing. Most likely. Unless it's like some sci-fi shit. And we're all in the inside of a cell. Have you seen Twilight Zone? I've seen Twilight Zone. But, you have to make your own purpose, right? And you have to make your own point in life. But people don't like that sort of thinking, and they don't like that sort of thing, so they shy away from it. And retreat into this bullshit because it does the thinking for them. Because they can't be fucking bothered. Hooray! They surround all of us. I'm scared.
But I don't believe them, and nor should you.
Nani?
Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
Heartbreaking stuff.
Well, if the Charlie Brooker lookalike says it, well then it must be true. We shouldn't believe it either, right?
If I roll this dice, the chances of getting a 6 is 1 in 6. That's not too bad. But what are the chances of me rolling 6 twice in a row? Well, the odds get longer. It's 1 in 6 times by 1 in 6. That's 1 in 36. So I'd have to be pretty lucky to get 2 6s in a row.
Do you love that setup? You gotta be pretty lucky to get 1 in 36 chances to roll 2 6s on 2 dice. It's a good thing we're not talking about big probabilities and we're not priming people to think that really low probabilities are really high ones, right? Like, oh my god.
Now, every time I add the chances of rolling another 6 in a row, the odds go up exponentially, and it gets even more unlikely. Now, what if I rolled this dice 70 times, and every single time I got a 6? Okay, that's pretty unlikely, but it's possible, right? Well, in fact, the chances of rolling a 6 70 times in a row are around 1 in 10 to the 55. That's a 1 with 55 zeros after it.
Oh no, not a big number, not a really big number. Then we might have to start getting into the realms of we live in a simulation because the numbers are big. Right, Mr. Beverly? The numbers are really big. And, you know, hey, I was doing Christian thinking, right? Not you. Oh my god. Why is it that anytime people are trying to convince you of some bullshit, they start pulling out probabilities and big numbers like you're supposed to... I'm dazzled! Oh, the numbers are so big! I couldn't possibly comprehend the real truth underneath it all. That actually all these big numbers are just to dazzle you. Like you're some sort of fucking catfish and they're flashing bright lights at you at night to catch you. Like this is silly. Or is it, no, putting electric pulses in the water to catch it. Because... oh, look at the keys! Look at the jingly keys! Can you see the numbers? Each key is a bigger number, and those numbers are so big and incomprehensible that you couldn't possibly understand. And I can. So, Occam's razor says it's either my explanation or the big number, right? Or unless you're like, you know, one of those fucking idiots that said the universe is like, you know, in a simulation. And then the big number means that it's true and not the other way around. You see how it's not like religion? Do you know what, Mr. Beverly? You're right. It's not like religion. It's completely different. They say the big numbers are dumb, so God exists. You say, well, there's a possibility, you know, of a universe in a simulation because, hey, the big numbers exist. So I guess it's completely different. My bad. Is part of the reason that I made this video just to make fun of that video? Yes, because I want to make fun of it some more. So, ha ha ha. Ha ha ha.
Now, just to put that in perspective, how long would I have to stand here rolling this dice, allowing about 5 seconds per roll, before hitting that lucky streak and rolling 76s in a row? Well, I had a mathematician friend work it out for me. On average, you would have to continually roll this dice for 100 trillion, 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 trillion years before your numbers come up.
See, what I like is nebulous numbers made by nebulous people. I had a mathematician friend. I don't need to say who they are. I don't need to say what methods they used. But I'm pulling out a really big number. You see? It's the really big number. If the number's really big, well, then it must be true, right?
Right.
See, if I was gonna, you know, on average, if I was gonna roll a 6 70 times in a row, it would take longer than the span of the universe. It would take so many trillions and trillions of times. You know, minutes and hours and years and days or whatever, right? When really, it could take as little as 6 minutes. You could just do it first time in 5 seconds a roll. Problem with probabilities is that there is no concrete answers with probabilities. You can extrapolate to whatever you want when you're talking about these kind of probabilities. Because when you're talking about these probabilities, you don't have all the fucking ancillary facts around them, right? The thing is actually a dice roll isn't random. You can actually work out, if you actually know the force, the position, the angles of the dice and what they're doing, you can actually work out with maths exactly how many times the dice going to hit the table, what side it's going to roll on, and which sides it's going to hit, right? All you need is all of the appropriate data. And the thing is when we're extrapolating to the universe, there's so many things we can't know, right? And like, he's talking about just rolling a 6-sided die so many times. And he can't even tell you how his mathematician friend did the working out. Because all he cares about is, see, it's a big number. Listen to my big numbers. Big numbers are all that matters. We're in a simulated universe. No, wait, sorry. That's me. Wrong video. Sorry, it's the wrong video.
Oh, sorry, wrong meeting. Shit. That's the meeting we're having tomorrow at the docks.
It's a big number, so God did stuff. I remember. Yes, I'll not forget this in future.
That's a long time. What if you applied that thinking to us? What are the odds of us being here? Now, the odds of rolling 76s in a row, 1 in 10 to the 55, as it happens, those are the same odds of something called the expansion rate of the universe being just right for the existence of us here today. From the moment of the Big Bang, when our universe began to rapidly expand, the rate of that expansion was exquisitely finely balanced.
Was it finely balanced? Because we don't need. That's thinking that the Big Bang was an explosion, and not a quantum fluctuation. Like, we don't know exactly what happened at the time of the Big Bang, right? So if we don't know what happened then exactly, how can you make any odds into what happens afterwards, right? If we don't even know whether it was, just in outward propulsion, or if it was actually, something exploding from the inside. We don't know if actually just quantum fluctuations caused an expansion event, right? All of these things have different rates of of expansion, have different properties to them that cause different things. So, and that's assuming that even any of our hypotheses are even correct about what it actually is, right? So how can you even pretend to make up anything like this, right? Like, how can you make up any numbers based on the starting proposition being a nil quality? It's almost like saying that the universe is simulated, right? When we don't know if there's any post-human civilizations or alien civilizations out there, and formulating a bit of numbers afterwards. It's great how analogous these two things are. It's almost like I kept on saying to Mr. Beverly how religiously inspired thinking it was. But hey, who cares about that, right? When you want to believe things, I need to focus on this video, and that's a bad shaking fist. That's a bad Zach. You gotta stay focused on this video and not the other one. It was a while ago. People don't care. They don't care that you've been infirmed and not able to do anything about this.
Any faster, and the universe would have expanded too rapidly to allow the formation of chemicals, atoms, stars, and galaxies. Any slower, and the universe would have collapsed back in on itself.
Well, considering that the speed of inflation is actually dependent on gravitational forces and other things like that, even the example he's using isn't even, like, finely tuned. It's all reactionary, right? But because people don't understand science, they don't understand physics, and in fact fight against knowing it because only the elites know things, and I don't want to know things because that's what smart people do. Are you a nerd? Nerd! And and stuff like that, right? Actually, you'd understand that physics is merely a series of reactions, and it's not prescribed actions. They are reactions, right? They are reacting to each other. So, let's say that the Big Bang was in fact one dense ball of everything in the universe together. Then its hot, dense state, eventually, its internal pressure exploded like a star supernovaing, because it would pushed out too much, and eventually the pressure pushing out overcame the pressure pushing in of the gravity, and those reactions caused the thing to happen. So, and that's the other thing I love about this fine tuning. It's if it was any slower, or any faster. Just any bit. It's exactly precisely this, right? So we're talking about things moving so ridiculously fast that giant bits of expansion happen in a matter of seconds. You know what I mean? And like, you know, general inflation went to light years across in days and stuff like that, right? Because it went because of, you know, the explosion into nothingness and the edges of, and as we see it in the maths of physics, that there's a chance that actually the edge of the universe is expanding faster than the speed of light, right? So if it's moving faster than the speed of light, and let's say it's moving 3 feet faster than the speed of light, right? So what if happens that it's moving 3 feet faster per second than the speed of light, right? What happens if you move it down to 2? Does that suddenly change all the physics? No, not really, because it's such an incomprehensibly small amount compared to the vastly large quantities it is. It's almost actually like there's a belt of acceptance for different reactions. So let's go to biology for a second. Let's go to enzymes. Let's go to a thing called the lock and key theory, where actually different enzymes need to be at certain temperatures and have certain to actually fit the things that they're trying to, you know, metabolize or, you know, use or whatever, right? So it's almost like everything actually has a band of acceptance that it will work perfectly in, not so well in, and then not at all at. So actually, all these are just reactions! It's not fine-tuning! Just because you really want to believe in God doesn't make it fine-tuning. All hail the great programmer in the sky! He has programmed everything to be as it is, you know, because the procedurally generated universe was made because the great programmer in the sky put down the set intervals of integers and, you know, all the different things, and, you know, he did the programming and he made all the things, you know, it's just like God, right? Because everything's so finely made and made in such a way that, well, I guess it's, you know, I guess it's God, right? Failing, you don't want to believe in God. We're in a simulated universe, right? It's weird how analogous these two things are. It's almost like they're the same fucking thing.
But as it happens, the universe expanded at just the right rate to allow for life to develop in the future.
Once upon a time, in a delightful forest, there was 3 universes. There was 3 universes who lived together in their own house. One of them was made by a god. One of them was made by a great programmer in the sky. And the other one was quite reactionary.
Nothing much going on here.
And then, one little girl, we'll call her Zacharina, she walked into the house and she saw 3 bowls of quantum porridge. And from she picked up the first porridge and she went, nom 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 nom, this porridge is too false. And then she put it down. And then she went over to the second porridge and she ended up, nom 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 nom. And she said, this porridge is for people that don't want the first bowl of porridge to be false, and tried to replicate it for themselves and failed. And she came to the third pot of porridge, the reactionary porridge, and she had it. And the porridge, well, it was just right because it reacted to her taste buds in the way that she wanted to, because it was reactionary. And to little Zacharina, it seemed like this porridge was made just for her all along. And then she went into the bedroom and she was very tired. Do you get my point? Like, come on. You see what you want to see when you look at these big incomprehensible numbers, and you're missing the forest for the trees, right? Life is boring. Life and the universe, the more and more we figure out, becomes mundane, right? So we have to insert this stupid magical thinking in there. And because we can reason and we can figure out stuff because we figured out so many fucking things, we can point out how this stuff is bullshit. So they have to try and get to more and more nebulous reasons and try and fool you with bigger and bigger numbers and more nebulous reasons. Do you get what I mean? Instead of just seeing it for what it is. Seeing things for what they are is not exciting, it's not magical, it doesn't take you on an adventure, it doesn't have meaning, right? All it does is tell you what it is. And people don't like that because people want that adventure, people want that excitement, they want meaning. And instead of being able to go out there and create this meaning for themselves and use the understanding they have gained of the universe and what they've learned to create that meaning, we have to listen to lazy fucks like this tell us, actually, none of that fucking matters. Have you seen a dice? God exists. It's fucking pathetic. And it's the same for these people that see this stupid bullshit and go, it's stupid bullshit. Let me recreate it with scientific language. It's different. Instead of creating their own meaning and just seeing the world for what it is and making themselves comfortable in their own fucking environment. But who cares about that, right? When you can make up stuff.
For us to be here, it hit 70 rolls of the number 6 in a row, first time. And the expansion rate of the universe is just one among 30 or so other incredibly sensitively finely tuned constants and fundamental forces in the universe that must be just the way they are for the universe to be able to produce us.
You know, it's just 30 or so. It's not that many, it's just 30 or so. You know, just to roll 2 6s is just 1 in 36, so it's, you know, it's about that, right? We just, like, come on. We don't know exactly how the universe started. We don't even know the fundamentals of how matter started to coalesce. We have ideas. Like, we don't, there could be more fundamental particles that we don't, like, more, like, and I don't mean, like, it could be that we've reached a base level. There's more fundamental particles off to the side that we haven't found. Or, actually, maybe the fundamental particles that we found aren't fundamental particles, and it goes deeper. You know, like, we found the atom. The atom is the soul. Okay, there's electrons, and there's neutrons, and there's quarks. Like, you know what I mean? Oh, there's muons. Okay, you know, like, maybe. We don't have all the answers, and considering we don't even have, like, it's like a little Discworld thing, right? So, Sam Vimes, he's the head of the Night Watch of Ankh-Morpork, and when he's trying to figure out cases, he always talks about it being a puzzle piece, right? You know, like, we have a few pieces of the edge, and we have a couple corners, but there's something big in the middle, and we don't know what that is, right? Or, like, whatever. Like, we have little bits of this puzzle here and there, and we're starting to get a full image of what this puzzle is actually going to look like when it's done, right? But to pretend that we know all the fundamental forces, like, electromagnetism is a new force because they combined magnetism and electricity, you know what I mean? Like, we find out different things all the time. Science hasn't stopped yet because we haven't figured out everything. So to pretend that we could pull these numbers out of our ass and the amount of things that have to go right to be that way, when actually they might not even be those things to begin with. You don't know how fundamental every part of these 30 things are. He only shows a couple on the fucking screen. He didn't show anywhere even approaching 10, let alone 30. So we're supposed to believe him about numbers and forget the fact that we haven't found out everything yet because he has all the numbers. So why bother keep on looking? We have the answer already. Why do we keep on looking for answers when we already have the answer? I know all the things we find keep on disproving that answer we already have, but why won't you just believe my fucking answer? It's the great programmer in the sky, goddammit! He made everything with the digital it's God. God did it with his mystical powers and not programming.
So let's imagine, if I went ahead and rolled this dice 70 times, and what do you know, every time it came up 6. No waiting for trillions upon trillions of years, first time. Beginner's luck?
Then in this analogy, wouldn't that be God? Because you did it right the first time, it was God. It was the first answer, you didn't need to try anymore.
Hardly. You would assume that I must have rigged it. Maybe the dice are loaded. Maybe there are 6s on every side. It can't be chance.
But that's the thing. Because of, like, how I said before, if you actually know about force, if you know the actual numbers for the force that you're going to be using, the angle that it's going to be falling at, like the drop off, the angle it's going to hit and stuff like that, you can actually kind of predict with a relative degree of accuracy, make it actually fall on the things that you want. The dice don't have to be rigged. Dice rolling isn't as random as you'd like to think. Why do you think that when you go to a casino, when it comes to dice rolling, they have people that watch this shit? People can there's all sorts of ways around this, and that's the cheating, right? But the thing is it's not cheating when you're rolling a dice, because you can still get it wrong, right? And I suppose there is that level of randomness, but the point being that just because somebody goes, oh my god, you must be cheating, doesn't mean that it can't happen. Improbable is not impossible, even though people are idiots and they like to put the two together.
That's improbable, but not impossible.
Now let me ask you, why would we assume that this universe with us in it, which is actually way more improbable than my 70 rolls, is just a result of chance?
But it isn't chance. We say, hey, So, gravitational wells in space-time cause things to come together as space-time bends, and they fall into each other. And as they fall into each other, the wells in space-time get bigger and bigger because the mass gets bigger and it bends space-time more, causing more things to fall into it. So when you have a nebula and things start to coalesce, they start to spin, they take items, they get ejected from the nebula due to gravitational pressures, and then when they get ejected, they're already spinning, right? And the whole solar system then is going to create, with its accretion disk around it, and all the matter that it's ejected out with it, is going to spin around until it all forms to things and bangs into each other. And then, if one of those humps of rock is in the habitable zone, which changes from star to star depending on the heat is given and radiation and stuff that is given out from the star itself, then there is a chance that if you have the right chemicals, that those chemicals will form into life. It's not about, I know I just said chance, but like, it's not just, oh, I rolled a dice to see if this happened, right? There is only a set number of fucking, abundant atoms in the universe, right? So actually, when we look at RNA and DNA, they are made of really abundant chemicals. So actually, one thing causes another that causes another. It's all cause and effect. But they don't like the idea of cause and effect, except for when God did it, right? Or a programmer said that you had to act in this way, right? The universe is so much more incomprehensible than people could even imagine. And it's only physicists and astrophysicists that say shit like this. Because they're the only ones that have looked into it enough to go, hey, we're just fucking, hairless monkeys trying to decipher an entire plane of existence in one unified rule, right? And then dickheads like this will come along and go, because you can't do that, God did it, right? Because you don't have all the answers. Because it's random. Because you don't have all the answers. You can't say that this happened and this happened and this happened. What's the chances that we exist? 1 in 1. You know why? Because we exist.
The fact that we're here shows that someone's loaded the dice.
Oh, obvious. I'll grant you it's obvious. Trouble is, just because things are obvious doesn't mean they're true.
No, the fact that we're here shows that actually these life processes can happen. So actually, life isn't as random as we think it is. The problem is that the universe is wide, tall, and vast, right? And it has had, about 14.7 billion years to run. So, it's almost like different forms of life would exist on different planets in its different forms that then, evolve to fit its different natures. And I don't mean its being natures. I mean the nature that it exists in. The nature, not like human nature, like the wild's nature, right? And they will evolve against competitors for breeding.
Round 1, fight!
For food.
Round 2, fight!
And for survival.
Final round, fight!
Just like they do here. Because, like physics, biological processes, usually pretty standard. Creatures will have the different ways of doing them, but from what we can see, most processes are pretty universal. Things are run by RNA and DNA. Lots of cells are covered by lipid structures to let things in and out. There's all sorts of things that, and maybe that's the random bit. Maybe the start of life is the least random bit, and then evolution makes it random. But hey, who cares about thinking about things in a logical way, using even a semblance of the information that we have before us?
In fact, maybe there's no dice at all. What if the evidence points to this life-permitting universe actually being the product of an intelligent mind which intended for us to be here?
And of course, because, there's only 50 seconds left in his video, that's why you say evidence right here and you don't have to point any out. Because there's just loads of it. Why would I have to point any of it out? You see, I've already pointed out how the numbers are just too big and too random because it's dice rolls. So why would I have to point to any of the evidence? That's one of the fun things that I love how he points this out at the end, not realizing that, I don't know, all the things that we talk about in science that bring about this, in quotation marks, randomness, like, I don't know, it's almost like we have a lot of data and experimentation to back that stuff up with peer review, right? And, has proof behind it and not just some philosophical, oh, morality says God and ontological says God. Oh! Like, maybe we have all the proof, and that's why they don't like to talk about those, because then we'll bring up ours and we'll talk about how we know that this planet is made of this, and this planet has this atmosphere, and this star's made of this, and how we know that these accretion disks are made, and all this different stuff, because we can point to every step of the data that has all this evidence behind it, and actual concrete evidence, not, well, have you seen a watch? Because, science. You don't want to get to the other side, though, where you just hear science words, and you think, well, it must be real, because they're using science words. Because the simulated universe must be real, because you said science words. No, it's not the same, because it's science words. He's using science words, so it's different. Like, fuck off.
Now, you could come up with some speculative other theory. Maybe there's an infinite number of universes, giving you an infinite number of chances to roll the dice.
I mean, I know this video's old, so he doesn't have this information, but the James Webb Telescope just recently gave a guy pointed a guy to go, hey, maybe we're in the side of a black hole. I don't know how much veracity there is to that yet. It's still pretty new, right? It could be complete bunk for all I know. But what if that's true, then? Then you're little, it's a different thing, it's bullshit, right? Like, what if the multiverse theory was already real when you said this, dickhead, and is provably actually more likely to be true? Not that, different universes exist at the same plane, that they touch occasionally and you can cross over, or like, every decision you make makes a different universe and you go down a different trouser leg of time. There's so many universes where everything happens that there is some universe where you are Batman. No. How about a part of our universe that, I don't know, has started moving faster than the speed of light? What about that? Well, we wouldn't actually be detectable by sight because we wouldn't be able to see the photons because they are moving too fast. So actually, it would technically be its own universe. Dun, dun, dun! But that would be knowing some things about physics and not just pulling some shit out of your ass and pretending like, well, it's going to be this, right? Because if we could just sit down and do simulations forever and ever and ever, right? Until we get what we want, Sorry, it's the wrong thing again. Silly me.
Oh, sorry, wrong meeting. Shit. That's the meeting we're having tomorrow at the docks.
Maybe. But we don't have any scientific evidence for it. So if you're hanging your hat on that possibility, then you're every bit as much committed to a faith position as the person who says God was behind it.
Except for, of course, the type of universe that I talked about, where actually there's different parts of the universe that are moving faster than the speed of light, that would be undetectable to anything but themselves and things moving around the same speed as them. So to themselves, they would be their own universe, technically making it a multiverse. And that is actually provable by science. But why no things? Because you need the faith position to believe this stupid bullshit. They come at you just like these people that say that, there's a possibility we might live in a simulation. They come at you with zero evidence, zero facts, and lots of postulation and lots of big numbers to make you go, hey, I have led you down an intuitive path. Why haven't you come to my simple, easy, and intuitive answer to this hard, non-intuitive question? It's the same shit. Can we stop pretending that, this kind of conspiracy thinking ain't the same as fucking religious thinking? And anytime you want to believe anything on zero evidence and just argumentation, you are believing it on it is a faith-based position because you have no proof. Because if you had fucking proof, why would you need a philosophical argument to get you to the fucking climax, right?
Believing in God isn't a delusion. It's a perfectly reasonable conclusion when we look at the fingerprints on our universe.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. God have mercy on your soul.
I like that little pregnant pause he gives, like, I'm going to tell you some. I'm going to tell you what the fingerprints are. No, I'm not. You're going to make it up for yourself and pretend I did. Like, it's the thing with religious thinking, conspiracy thinking. They let you do all the lifting for them, right? They give you some nebulous bullshit with some big fucking numbers, and then you provide the rest, and then you get to act like you fucking figured it out. Isn't that fun? If you figured it out, right, it means that it's more correct because you figured it out, because then it becomes personalized to you, right? It's an achievement. I figured it out, so it must be correct because it is me. Do you know what I mean? Like, come on. Twice in this fucking video, it's going, wow, the proof is everywhere. I'm not going to mention any of the proof, but the odds are too big, so my proof must be correct, even though I'm not giving any. You know, like the great programmer in the sky. We have no proof of any post-human civilizations. We have no proof of any alien civilizations. And even, we have no proof of like, being able to break the substrate barrier. But hey, must be true. Big numbers. Feel good.
And if it's true that we aren't just the fluke result of a cosmic roll of the dice, and that we're actually here because a grand designer intended us from the very beginning, well, that's worth staking something on.
Is it, you mentally retardant piece of shit? Like, maybe everything you've just said, let's just assume it proves, it definitely points to a creator God. What means it's fucking yours, idiot? I love this shit from theists everywhere. They present arguments that go, look, it proves an overarching creator God. Nothing about theirs, but because they're giving it, it must be their God that's 100% true, right? It must be their God, because they're the ones giving the argument. And nothing about rolling a dice 70 times face up and it taking so fucking long says, do you know what? Jesus was right. But hey, this cunt said it, so it must be, right? It's fucking pathetic. So that's that video done. And like, this is why we shouldn't listen to people with like, oh, I only 30% think that, you know, we live in a simulated universe, right? There is no percentage point of believability you should have in any kind of argument like this. It doesn't matter how smart the person sounds. It doesn't matter where they get the nebulous argument from, right? We need proof to back up the claims. Fuck Occam's razor. Hitchens' razor says that can be asserted without evidence, can be dismissed without evidence. And that goes for everything. It doesn't matter how good it makes you feel. It doesn't matter if they use scientific language, right? It matters how they can prove their claims. And if all they're going to come at you with is stupid philosophical arguments and big numbers, and why aren't you just believing me yet, right? And like trying to berate you. Oh, you're just, this is just this time. Like, they're just trying to demean you and badger you and fucking cajole you and fucking harass you and harangue you into these thoughts by different tactics, throwing different pieces of shit at the wall until it fucking sticks. And I'm looking at you, Beverly. You did all of them. Like, we need to stop believing in stupid things. And like Beverly said, you know, me and Beverly were also talking about this sort of thing over an email, and I think one of the things he said, so he said, well, you know, it's not that I fully believe it. It's just a good idea. It's just like, any percentage chance, any percentage that you believe in something as fallacious as these things is nothing but an area and a breeding ground for conspiracy thinking, because you leave that crack, you leave that crack open for them a little bit, man, and they'll come in, and they'll take as much as humanly possible. These conspiracy theorists, this religious thinking, they don't give a shit. Don't give them any space. That is how you combat this type of thinking. Don't give them any quarter, and when they present arguments like this, laugh at them and ask for something better, no matter what it's for. So, with that done and out of the way, goodbye, everybody!